It's almost like pebbles, but in form of grass. Maybe have it like maximum and see how big that becomes. Yeah, that's actually better. Play around with the value soon. There we go. That actually, anti-aliasing. Yeah, we can actually keep it. It doesn't really matter. And add this one instead, like that. Boom. Increase the size a little bit. Oh boy, I missed this one out completely. Holy moly. Alright, that looks really good. Alright, so I guess now we could actually start adding a little bit of grass here. Actually, let's do it like this. Let's make these two. There we go. Just kind of combine them. Maybe rotate it a little bit like that, you know, to kind of have like a little bit of variation right here. We could copy this one, paste it over here. Maybe a little bit front. There we go. That looks pretty cool. And then maybe we can have like a little rotation right here, right? So that we can cover up this part with trees. So let's not have that one. Let's have this one, but rotate it this way and kind of cover up this area so that we kind of suit it with the way that this road is going. Although this is a little bit too sharp that I realize now. So let's go back a few steps, do that again. Yeah, that's better. Just make sure that there is still at least as much gap as here in here too, so that you don't overdo that. Nice. That's the same one. Let's try this one this time. It just kind of plays it here. There we go. And there we go. That is pretty much it. We're also gonna use this part of the map to cover up for the rest of the spot, so that we don't have to overdo this one more time and so on. So we're just gonna go the lazy way of doing a level design, but it's still gonna look good. So we can play this one time and see how it looks with the wind and all. That's nice. That's definitely nice. I like it. But one thing that I really want to edit here is the grass on the terrain. We can first and foremost decrease the speed of the wind. We can also decrease the there and have it like that, so that the tint isn't too much. Bending can also be decreased a little bit. There we go. Maybe we can also decrease the detail intensity so that we don't have way too much of it. Let's see how that looks. Otherwise, it just looks way too overdone. That's a lot better because now you can see the sharpness of the grasses too, even though they are billboarded. So that looks a lot better. Yeah, I like that. So, oh, we have a detail mesh on my other monitor, but now we're actually gonna fill it up with a bit more. I think we can continue these. Hold on a minute. We're actually gonna have a background mountain here. There we go. Not that close though. Nice. Just kind of fill up a huge chunk actually of the map that we have. I remember that I think I was using this one. There we go. I think that looks a little bit more filled up, and yeah, that's a lot better. I like it much more now. Yep, that's actually a lot better. One more minor detail that we could add here is a bit more mushrooms here. Nah, you know what? Nah, never mind. Really don't need to do that. I think we're done here. I think so. I think I'm done with this little tutorial, which was literally me just talking to you guys, meanwhile making a level design. But I guess this is what you guys wanted, right? Let's add a bit more trees in the background. Just this part though, so that it doesn't look that empty. There we go. Well, I think I'm done here. I believe that this is but yeah, like I said, let me know if you have any kind of feedback, if you have any questions. Like I said, we're gonna host
Iku, mana, mera, aku, Rumas. Bunda, doma, uri mama, doma, 이거 봐.
logic. And the first thing that we want to do is create a player look script that is of course responsible for our ability to look around. Now, looking around is actually fairly simple. Of course, everything is controlled with the mouse, and the mouse can be moved on two axes, mouse X and mouse Y. If we move our mouse on the X or from side to side, we want to rotate our entire player around the Y axis. This allows us to turn around. If we move our mouse on the Y or up and down, we don't want to rotate our entire player. We just want to rotate our camera on the X axis. This allows us to look up and down. Now it's a good idea to limit the rotation of our camera to 180 degrees so that it doesn't flip to point behind the player. This is called clamping. Alright, with that in place, we can go ahead and select our camera, and here we want to add a new component, and let's call it mouse look. Let's hit new script and create an ad, and let's double click it to open it up in Visual Studio. Now the first thing that we want to do here is go into our update function mode.locked. And with that, we can save the script, head into Unity, and hit play. And as you can see, we can now also look up and down, which means that we have a working mouse look script. And if we go ahead and try and look very far upwards, as you can see, we cannot look further than the 90 degrees, and the same thing when looking down. So next up, we're ready to create some player movement. To move our player, we again want to gather some input. Remember, this is using the current input system, so this might change in the future, but for now, we can do this by getting some input on the horizontal and vertical axes. Just like with the mouse X and mouse Y, Z. We also want to make sure that we do this locally so that we are always moving relative to the direction the player is facing. So to implement this in Praxis, let's go ahead and select our player. Let's add a new component, and this is going to need the player's facing, and we can go ahead and simply move with this. Of course, in order to move, we need a reference to our character controller, because this is kind of the motor that drives our player. So to do that, we'll go up here and let's create a public character controller, and let's just call it controller. In fact, let's also get rid of our start method. We don't need it. And now down here, we can simply call controller.move, which is a function on this character controller that takes in.
Why you don't try make multiplayer game? Or you can't do that? Can you make a multiplayer game? Why you can't make a multiplayer game? Okay, chill, stop. I get it. I'll make a multiplayer game, okay, boys? So ever since I made my first 3D game, Carlson, in the last videos, you guys have filled my comment section with this shit. So I guess I have no choice but to turn Carlson into a multiplayer game now. If you don't know what Carlson is, it's basically a first-person parkour milk drinking game. Or something. I don't really know. But you can just watch my previous videos if you want to know more about it. So before adding online multiplayer, I want to slightly just pimp up Carlson a bit. So first off, I added hyperspeed. And then I got to work on adding reloading, since currently all the guns have infinite ammo, which is kind of weird. So I made a quick ammo icon in Photoshop, found some free sound effects online, did some more programming, and just like that, we now have an ammo counter and reload animations. And when I say reload animations, I mean spinny boys, because I'm too lazy to actually make animations. And I mean, come on, look at that sweet spin, it just makes me go yes. I also changed the explosion effect so it clearly says boom, because some people might be blind and can't see the explosion, so at least now they can read it. Yeah, I know, I'm a considerable guy, what can I say?
It's funny because blind people can't read either.
Now, as you might know, our character Carlson is actually just a bean, and I'ma be completely honest with ya, Carlson be looking kinda thick. But since we're turning it into a multiplayer game and I don't really want beans running around shooting each other, I had to change it up and gave him an actual body. But yeah, I don't know. So I added some more animations. It still looks like shit. I don't even know what's going on. Anyway, a lot of people have asked me to be able to see the player's feet when you slide into enemies, so I did just that, and now it looks pretty cool. Oh, turn it off! They're not supposed to see that clip. Shit. Anyway, just pretend you didn't see that last clip and the animations are now perfect. Hell yeah! So it's time to make multiplayer. Now here's the first problem. I'm pretty dumb. Now the second problem is that I don't know anything about making multiplayer or networking. Zero, nada karabush, nothing. So there's only one thing to do. I quickly found a great tutorial series on YouTube by Tom Wieland showing you how to set up a dedicated server using C# and then using that with Unity. There's a link to his videos in the description down below. You should seriously check them out because they really helped me set up the back end of the multiplayer stuff. But now I've finished the tutorial series, which means I'm on my own without the slightest clue of what the heck I'm doing. So, I mean, just look at this mess. I have no idea what's happening on my screen right now. Why is there a bean? What's going on? So I did some more coding and we now have 2 players on the server and character models working. You can even look around and the other players can see you looking around, which is pretty sick because in real life you can also see when other people are looking around. And it's like my dad used to say, looking around is cool. And then I spent like 1 hour staring at my screen and I wrote 2 lines of code and we now have animations. Now, some people might say, hey, those animations are kind of whack. But I have no idea what you're talking about. It looks fine to me, it's perfect. So now that the animations are perfect, I put a little map together and several players can now join the server, move around and slide, I guess, I don't know. Then I got some of my imaginary friends to join the server and we tested out the game a bit. I don't know about them, but I had a lot of fun pushing them out of the map and being an asshole and killing them.
Please, fuck off.
And of course, you win by grabbing that sweet, sweet milk at the end of the map. Man, just playing this game makes me thirst for some good milk, am I right, boys? Also, we now have epic milk merch, represent.com/shop/Danny, link in the description down below. But okay, maybe, just maybe, the animations aren't that great, so let's work on them a bit more. First, I made the head of the player look towards where the player is looking. But he also needs to actually hold the gun in his hands, so I made him do that, and Let's try that again. Oh sweet Jesus Lord, is that a floating gun? I tried again, but the results are kind of questionable. I don't know. So since it appears I'm too dumb to get this working, we need to... And I concluded we need to use inverse kinematics. Now, if you don't know what inverse kinematics are, it's basically just kinematics, but inverse. Yeah, you're welcome. So I found a good tutorial on YouTube, and after stealing the code from that video, and after completing the tutorial and following along and using my newfound knowledge, I put inverse kinematics on the player's arm, and we went from this to this. Wait, to this, which is looking, you know, just slightly better than before. I also worked on just upgrading all of the all-around animations, so for example running and jumping, and here they all are in action. It's looking a bit better. And if you didn't already know, I'm a huge fan of ragdolls. They make me go, yes, thick! So I made the players turn into ragdolls when they die. Then I put together a big arena inspired by the size of your mom. Invited all of the friends that I don't have. And we played a round of the first online cars. It wasn't perfect, but it was fun, although there are some major issues, especially when it comes to hit detection. A lot of the time when you shot someone, nothing really happened, and everything is also client-side, and I'm not gonna bore you with all of the details, but essentially it's very easy to cheat if everything is client-side. Therefore, we need to make the server handle and authorize everything, which is much harder to do, especially for a dumbass like me. So, since I have no idea what I'm actually doing, I turned to Google and I started researching. I read a lot of articles, especially from Valve, on how they did multiplayer for source games like Counter-Strike or Team Fortress 2. And after 4 days of continuous work, everything is now server-side. And I've also finally implemented client-side prediction, which means I can finally check that off my list. Man, it feels good to be done. With 10%, oh no. So I said fuck it and hit the sack. Then I got back up next morning, drank some more milk and got to work. And after implementing most of the features needed for the server to work, I also made a new model for a pistol and a knife. They both turned out pretty cool, and apparently you can shoot with the knife, so that's pretty nice, I guess. I also finally made another pistol which fires a bit slower but will one-hit enemies. The only thing missing now is, well, the map. So I got to work on making the first PvP arena. And after some time, the map is finished. It's not perfect, but it's the first time I've spent more than 10 minutes making a map, and also the first time I messed with baked lighting. And with all of this, we're ready to finally put Carlson online to the tests. I've made the server system so that anyone can host a server on their computer by just downloading the server files. So to demonstrate this, instead of hosting the server on my own computer, I set up a Linux server using Google Cloud services and stuff, and after typing some things on a cool hacker screen, the server is now up and running. All that's left now is to, well, get the boys together and play a match of Carlson. But before we get started, if you want to try the game out for yourself in the future, you will have to wait for it to come out on Steam. So make sure you wishlist Carlson now, slappers, to get notified whenever it's available. But without further ado, let's just get this road on the show, wait. So we can simply join the server by typing our username and the IP address of the server. I've invited some of the world record holders for Carlson speedruns because people like speedrunning Carlson apparently. They're pretty damn good at it as well. So most of the players here are very good at Carlson, but I'm only going to show you clips where I look good, of course, because as you can probably tell, I've added a bunch more sound effects and worked a lot on making the movement and gunplay feel better. The movement itself is very inspired by Counter-Strike and Team Fortress, so there's a lot of air strafing and high speed. Now obviously, as you can probably tell, this is far from finished, and I'm gonna add more guns, classes, loadouts, and a map creator so you can play custom maps. But this will all take a long time to add and won't be available until I release the full game. Oh my god. But even if it's very unfinished, we still had a lot of fun playing, and it has a lot of potential once I get working more on it. I'll definitely add better looking models for the players because they're all just kind of blue boys running around, and of course better animations and much more. So there it is, my first multiplayer game. I spent like 2 weeks learning all of this, but it was a ton of fun making. Again, make sure to check out the Steam page in the description down below and wishlist Carlson on Steam right now, slappers. Also check out merch, link below. I'll probably also post some more raw gameplay on my second channel if you want to see more of it. Anyway, that's gonna be it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to slap like now if you liked it and slap dislike if you didn't. Also smash subscribe because at 1 million subscribers, I'm doing a milk reveal, which you definitely don't want to miss. Join our Discord, follow me on Twitter and Facebook. Just kidding, nobody uses Facebook anymore, come on. And as always, drink your milk, hit the sack, and don't you dare be whack. Why you don't try make a 3D game? Or you can't do that? So because Jotaro roasted me for not being able to make a 3D game, the only solution is to, well, what if we turned YouTube into the world's biggest battle royale game? So before I make a giant battle royale with 10,000 players, we need, well, 10,000 players. So I'm going to make a program that fetches all of the comments from all of my YouTube videos and makes a list of the top 10,000 people who have commented the most on my videos. So here's the final code. I don't really know what I'm doing. Token response? What the fuck is that? I don't know. Anyway, let's just hit run and see what happens. And oh boy, would you look at that, it's actually working. And now we just wait for the program to fetch all of the comments on my YouTube videos.
2 hours later.
Boom! A list of my top 10,000 fans. The number to the left indicates how many comments they have in total on my videos, so the more comments you have, the stronger stats you will get in the Battle Royale game, meaning they will be the favorites coming into the tournaments. Okay, so we have our players, now we kind of need a game. So I started a new Unity project and got to work on making players, pick-upable guns, shooting, red zone, and much more. And then my brain was like, what the f***, Danny, you actually have motivation? Nah, dog, we ain't gonna have none of that. And then 3 months later, my brain was like, okay, time to get back to work. And now I know how to make 3D games, so we're gonna make the simulation in 3D instead. So I started with a rectangle, and then I made it absolutely massive, giant, enormous, just like your mom. Now let's make a player. Let's call him Bean. Not gonna lie, Mr. Bean out here looking kinda thick, if you know what I'm saying. Okay, Mr. Bean, stand still if Danny has big PP. What the fuck? After programming his brain, Bean quickly learned how to balance and walk, so he shouldn't fall over anymore. Okay, Mr. Bean, stand still if Danny is an epic gamer. What the fuck? And before going any further, Mr. Bean looking kinda dull, so I gave him some glasses to make him look much more epic. Then I wrote a quick script to spawn in a bunch of players. I started with 10, then I tried 100, and then 1000, which was still running on a very high FPS. So we're going big baby, 10,000 players, and we're still running on a 26 FPS, which is not even half bad. Unfortunately though, for Mr. Bean, the sunglasses have to go, and if we start the simulation now without the sunglasses, our FPS has been boosted up to 40, so almost twice the FPS. It definitely hurts to see the sunglasses go, but it was a worthy sacrifice, and maybe in the future we'll see them back. I also added some HP to the players so that they can actually die. Essentially, they will fight by just bumping into each other, and when they take damage, they will turn red. And of course, we need to try this with more players, so here are 10,000 players running to the same spot and attacking each other. But as you can tell, our FPS has now dropped very low and is sitting at around 8 because there are so many collisions. So I did a bunch of optimizations and unfortunately had to change Mr. Bean to Mr. Cube to squeeze out some higher FPS. But I'm gonna be honest with ya, Mr. Cube is also low-key looking kinda thick. So here are 10,000 thick cubes battling it out. We're getting around 15 FPS, which is kind of bad, but if we build the game and run it as a standalone application, we actually achieve a stable 30 plus FPS, which is actually pretty good. That's like twice as good, because 15 times 2 is 30. And so 30 plus is like... So enjoy the beautiful sight of 10,000 agents fighting, but obviously there are still many things missing before we can call this a battle royale. The first thing I did was make the enemies spawn randomly all across the map. Not only does this make it feel more like a battle royale, but it also doubled my FPS since they're not all grouped into one small area. But if we take a closer look at Mr. Cube and his brother, we can tell they're actually dumb as bread. They just kind of walk around randomly without any purpose or meaning, absolutely brain dead. It's kind of like me. Actually, that's exactly like me. So I gave them vision. Basically, these red lines in front of the players are sensors, and if anything enters a sensor, the player will attack. I also added obstacles, which the players can hide behind, and they can't walk through them, they will always walk around them, because in real life, you can't really walk through a wall, and I thought maybe you shouldn't be able to do that here either. So, you know, that's pretty cool, and once they see each other, they will start fighting. It would also be nice to see some simple stats about the different players like HP, amount of kills, and so on. So I made a quick UI element that displays some of the features for a given player, and after some quick programming for the camera, we can now move around and click on players and see their stats. It's far from perfect, but it gets the job done, and as Napoleon used to say before attempting world dominance, cameras don't need to be perfect, bruh. Now one crucial element we're lacking, which every battle royale has, is the zone. So I made a tube and then I made it thick. And then I made it massive, like your mom. And then I covered the entire map in it. And of course I also made it shrink slowly with time so that the players constantly have to move towards the middle. And just like that, it's almost looking like to catch up. We also have the Mage's Mango. 23 comments. Mike is sorted with 23 comments. Hype Rockets, 21 comments under his belt and 2 kills already. Hype Rocket looking. And the zone is quickly killing everybody. And it's a carnage in the middle. We have winning the first YouTube Royale against 9,999 players.
Hey there! So, today we're going to be starting a new tutorial series where we're going to be making a space combat game similar to an early 90s and it was just 3D shoot, or not 3D, 2D top. Alright, hey there everybody, welcome back. So today we're going to be taking and making our little ship here that has some nice kind of space-like movement, forwards and backwards, and we're even going to add a little bit easier, so that you're not trying to remember what each event does. So the way that you would do that is 3 backslashes at description in the ship. Now GameMaker has a bunch of built-in functions that are going to make our lives easier, but remember this starts at 0 speed, then we're going to increase it by a little bit. So I'm going to say speed, this actually needs to be, there we go, speed plus equals 0.05. So that's adding. So this is going to refresh itself every frame, which is roughly 60 times a second. So what I want to do with this is I want to use, so we could actually go through the exact math of how this is calculated. So like if our ship is pointing, like say this way at an angle, the exact amount of speed that we should add to it is going to be based on the trigonometry of that angle. So if you ever told your math teacher that you 2D top-down shooter with planets